So why is sitting so hard? It's hard for the same reason that anything that we do is difficult. It's because we're not looking for resources. If we can find the resources from the bottom of the chair to support our spines, then sitting becomes much simpler and much easier. So let's start out with a little exploration of the spine in seated. You're gonna need a chair, preferably with a hard bottom, preferably tall enough so that your thighs are on the same level of the chair rather than downward or rather than upward. And you're gonna sit on the edge of the chair. And you can rest your hands on your thighs, you can rest your hands alongside you, whatever is comfortable. Take a look at your feet and make sure that your feet are underneath your knee joint rather than behind or in front. And then just rock a little bit to the right and to the left. You're looking for your sits bones, the sticky outy bones that are like a launching pad for a rocket. Shifting to the right, shifting to the left. And now start to make the shifting right and left smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller till you're just moving between the inner edge of one sits bone and the outer and the inner edge of the other. Then move even smaller and smaller until you're kind of hovering in the middle, and just see what that feels like. The next step is to rock to the back of your sits bones, which means your lumbar spine will go backwards, and then to rock in front of your sits bones, so you'll arch your back. It can be as small as you need it to be comfortable. So doing it bigger is not better. And notice you're going glacially. You're moving really slowly so that you can feel the territory that you're traveling upon, the shape of each sits bone. You might feel, wow, I really feel my left sits bone much more than my right. Or it doesn't even seem to be in the same place as the right one. That's all really valuable information. Not that you have to do anything with it at this moment. Notice as you continue, well, no, let's not do that yet. Let's just keep rocking forward and back. And the same thing, we're gonna make it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. That could take quite a bit of time. I'm going to fast forward through this because I don't want this video to be long. So it might be to the point where you could think about moving but concealing your movement. So even though you still are rocking, you're trying to conceal it because you're supposed to sit still. Eventually you'll come to a place where hopefully you're in the middle of your sits bones, front to back, and also right to left. Now see what that feels like. See if it feels effortful to sit like this. And then try something else. Lift your right foot off the floor and place it back down. Very gently. Lift your left foot off the floor. You can peel your toes away from the floor slowly, so you're not picking your whole foot up like you're going to kick something or kick through a door. But you're going to peel your foot away from the floor, softly set it back down, and start to make that smaller and 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 smaller until it's imperceptible. And see if adding an awareness of the ground supporting your feet and the chair supporting your sits bones makes the sitting any easier. And then let's do an exploration. Go ahead and rock to the back of your sits bones. Let your lower back round, your tail that comes between your legs, your upper back rounds, and your head moves forward slightly. Then come back in the opposite direction. Do that several times, just going backwards. Head goes forward, tailbone goes forward, but your spine curves backwards. So you're concave in the front and convex in the back. And see if you can include your whole spine. So rather than moving this way, where it's just your lower back, or this way, where it's just your upper back and your sits bones haven't changed, or this way, where your neck isn't involved. See if you can make the whole shebang, the whole spine, gently be a part of this simple movement. Continue with that for as many repetitions as you like, and then do the opposite. Can you roll to the front of your sits bones? So it's as if you're taking your pubic bone and pushing it towards the chair. Pubic bone is the bone in between your two legs when you sit. So you're going to take that pubic bone and move it into the chair while your lower back arches. So as you do that and you start to feel into it more and more and more, you can notice that you can let your ribs move a little bit. So your ribs will go back as your tail goes back. So you don't want to make it only the lower back. You don't want to make it only the upper back. And you don't want to make it only the spine and not the head. So the whole system, the ribs, the shoulders. So notice what your shoulders do when you curve your spine in this way. Don't take your head too far back so it's uncomfortable for your chin. Just look up at about 45 degrees from the floor. So about there, maybe 60 degrees. See if it can become one consistent gesture. And go ahead and add going backwards and forwards. So the head and the tail come forward, the head and the tail come back. Make it soft, make it easy, and what you're doing is you're sensing your resources. How much are you using your feet in the ground to initiate the movement? Does the weight on your feet change? How does your sits bones rock on the chair? How does the movement happen? Is it sequential or is it simultaneous? So here's sequential. My lower back moves, my middle back moves, my upper back moves, my head moves. Sequential again. My lower back moves, my waist moves, my middle back moves, my shoulders move, my head moves. Or simultaneous. The whole thing moves at once. The whole thing moves at once. Let it be supple. Let it be comfortable. Let it be a simple biological gesture, opening and closing, like every organism does to receive nourishment. Opening to take in, closing to process and digest. Do that as much as you'd like, and then just take a rest, sit back in your chair for just a minute. A minute. Come back to the front of your chair and notice what it feels like to sit down. Notice if you can feel more support from the ground and more support from your sits bones. So that's the first installment in this lesson. We're going to do some more next week to help you really understand your sits bones and your relationship to your base of support. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week.